This is going to be a walkthrough of my OS, which is Next OS. I decided to go for a simple, clean, and efficient design. I wanted to design for people who don't use their devices to their full capacity and log on to get specific tasks done, and when they're done, they just exit out and close their computers. So this is the web design of my OS. This right here is the loading screen, and then we move into the login screen and we have 3 different profiles. And then from there we move into the home screen, and we have 3 different screens for the home screen. We have the main home screen, and then we have the home screen with a longer list of the most frequented apps, and then we have a screen for all the apps that are downloaded on the device. And then next we have the web notes, or the notes app on the web opened, and then we have the transition screen for 2 different applications open at the same time. And this is the web OS design. Moving on to the iPad. This is the OS design for the iPad. So we have the loading screen, and then we have the login, and the login for the iPad is numerical versus the web login is a written word passcode. And for the iPad, there is the option to choose a profile, because sometimes iPads are shared devices. And then we have the home screen, and down here we have a section for the most frequented apps, again similar to the web OS. And then moving on, we have another screen for the home screen, just with more apps. And then we have the Notes app open on the iPad. It looks pretty similar to the web OS, just smaller. And then we have the transition screen of having 2 applications open. And again, we have the Notes app open and Chrome open. So this is the OS design of the iPad. And next we're going to move to the iPhone. And again, we have the loading screen as the first screen. Then we move into the login screen, which is the same as the iPad. Or not the same, but similar. It's a numerical passcode. And the iPhone doesn't have a profile option because phones typically belong to one person. So then we move on to the home screen, and again we have this section down here for the most frequented apps, or the apps that need to be accessed the quickest, and this is going to be customizable between user. And then we have another home screen with more apps on it, and you just have to click right here to move to this screen. And then here we have the Notes app open. So it looks a little different. We have the Notes title here, and then we have a button to add a note or trash a note, and then we have a list of our notes that are made. and then you go down to the next screen, and this is the password notes, or password note open. And then over here we have the transition screen. So when you are on the phone or you preview this, you'd actually be able to scroll and see the Messages app open, but this is the transition screen. And then this altogether is my iPhone OS design. And finally we have the watch OS design. So again, we have the loading screen right here. Move to the login screen, which again is a numerical login like the iPad and the iPhone. And then we move to the home screen, and since the Apple Watch, or the watch in general, is a lot smaller, I decided to separate the apps into two columns and have it so that you could scroll up to see your apps. And then here we have the Notes app open on the watch, and it kind of has a similar layout to the iPhone. We have the opening screen, which would be a list of your notes that you have, and then you have the option to add a note or trash a note. And then if you click on one of your notes, the password, in this case, it'll bring you to that note open, and it shows you what you have inside. And then we have the transition screen between two open applications. So in this instance, we have the Notes app and the Messages app, similar to the iPhone. And this is my watch OS design. And that is everything that I have. Again, I wanted to keep it pretty simple and user friendly because I designed for people who tend to just get onto their devices whenever they need to get something done or look at something. And this is Next OS. So this is my loading screen, and then this is the login screen. So you have your profiles, and then you can choose whichever profile is yours and put your password in and log in. And then this would be the home screen. Up in the right hand corner you have your Wi-Fi, signal, your battery life, and then the time and the date. And then down here in the right hand bottom corner we have a trash can to trash files that aren't needed. And then down here in the center we have a most frequently used apps section. So these would be the 5 apps that you use the most, and this would obviously depend on each person what apps would be here. And if we expand this section, it'll bring us to a larger section of frequently used apps, and again this would be customizable for each individual. And then if you go to all, it'll take us to all the apps that are downloaded. But we're going to go back to the home screen, and then we're going to open up our Notes app. So this would be the Notes app on Next OS on a desktop. On the right hand we have a list of the different notes that we have. You can add a note or you can trash one. And then we have a formatting section. You can create lists, and then you can also draw on your note if you need to. And then this is our transition between two different apps screen. So we have our Google Chrome open and our Notes app open, and then we can just close out of both. And this is my OS design for a desktop. Moving on, we have our OS designed for an iPad. So again, this would be the loading screen with our logo and our OS name. And then we go to our login screen. So again, you'd be able to choose your profile when logging in, and rather than a written passcode, it is a numerical passcode. So you just punch that in and then hit enter, and it'll take you to your home screen. And to keep it simple, I decided to just leave all of your apps that you have downloaded on the iPad on the home screen, so you can separate that however you want. This is 2 pages of apps. And then down here, similar to the desktop OS, we have our frequently used apps. So this again would be customizable per user. Up in the right hand corner, we have the Wi-Fi signal, we have the battery life, and then we have the time. And I'm going to open up the Notes app. So again, it's pretty similar to the desktop OS. So we have our notes, our different notes listed on the left hand side. You can add a note, delete a note, and then in the actual notes writing section, you can format your note. You can make a list or you can draw on your note. And then if we hit this bar right here, it'll take us to our transition screen between 2 different apps. So in this instance, I have the Notes app open and the Chrome app open. Or I can go back to the home screen hitting this little bar down here, and this takes us back to the home screen. And this is my OS design for the iPad. Next, we have the OS design for the iPhone. Again, this is a loading screen with our logo and our operating system name. If you click it, it'll bring you to the login screen, and there is no way to change profiles in the login screen on the iPhone because you normally can't do that. So you would just enter in your passcode and then hit enter. And then this would be the home screen. Up in the left hand corner, you have your Wi-Fi signal and then your cellular signal. And on the right hand side, you have your battery life or battery power and the time. And then there is a widget with your location, the time, the day, and the date. And this information is put here in this widget for efficiency purposes. If someone needs to know the time, the day, or the date, they can just take a quick look right here and it's all right there. And then we have some apps, and then we have a little health widget for people who like to track their steps or the distance that they walk in a day. This one is specifically for the distance, and it keeps track right there. And again, it's pretty big. It's a pretty big widget for efficiency purposes. They don't really have to search for it. It's right there. And then this would be the other home screen with the other apps. And then down here again in the center, we have our most frequently used apps, or the apps that you need to access the fastest on your phone. And again, this would be customizable per user. And I'm going to open the Notes app, and this is what the Notes app would look like on the iPhone. It would bring you to the list of notes that you have already, and you can add a note or trash a note right here, or you can click into your note. So I'm going to go into passwords, and you can go back. You can format it, format the lettering, You can make a list or you can draw on the note, similar to the iPad and the desktop. And if you hit the bar down at the bottom, it'll take you to a transition screen between apps. So the Notes app and the Messages app are open and you can transition between them. We're going to go back to the Notes app, and then we're going to go back to the home screen. And this is my OS design for the iPhone. This is my OS design for the watch, an Apple Watch or just a smartwatch. So this would be the loading screen with the logo and the OS name. You tap it and it'll bring you to the login screen, and again, similar to the iPhone, there's no real need to have different profiles. So you would just put in your passcode and hit enter. And this would be the home screen, and similar to the iPhone, I wanted to keep that element of efficiency, so I have the widget with the time, the date, and the day and location, and we have the health widget as well right here, so you can scroll through them. And then we have our Wi-Fi, our cell signal, the battery, and the time in the top. And then if you scroll down, you can go through your different apps, and I'm going to open the Notes app. So this is the Notes app. Pretty similar format to the iPhone. You can add a note, trash a note, and then you have your notes listed. We're going to go into our passwords note. Here it is, and you can go back. You can format the text, make a list, or write on this note. And then if you click this little bar, it'll take you to the transition between apps. So we have the Notes app open and we have the Messages app open. And we're going to go back to the Notes app. And then we're going to go back to our home screen. And this is my OS design for a smartwatch. So it is week 1 of the OS project, and this week I did some research on like what operating systems entail and like what they involve, because I really was unfamiliar with the entire like concept of an operating system. So I've been getting a better grasp as to what I'm gonna have to do design wise for this project. And I've also been kind of just brainstorming ideas for the name of my OS. The only thing that I really came up with was Serpent, but I don't really like that name. So I'm going to just keep playing around with that. And I've also just been like throwing down ideas onto paper for like the logo. It is very much the beginning stages of this project. But I have some more work to do for sure. And I still need to figure out like the concept of my operating system. I don't really know what I want it to look like or what I want the user experience to be as of yet. So I'm still going to be brainstorming that the rest of this week and going into week 2 as well. So that's my progress so far for week 1. It is week 2 of the OS project, and this week I continue to brainstorm ideas for my name, my OS name. I think I've decided on Next OS, spelled NXT. I just think it sounds cool, and I am thinking of this as like the next operating system, like the future operating system. So that's why I went with Next OS. I'm still trying to develop the logo for it and the actual name brand, like
name typeface. I did kind of start my wireframe sketches, so I have some of those for the desktop OS and my iPad OS, and I'm still trying to brainstorm the user experience end of my design. I don't really know what solution I want it to be solving, or what problem I want it to solve. So that's something I'm going to be thinking about with during the next week. And I'm going to continue to develop my logo. So that was my progress this week. I will see you guys in week 3. It is week 3 of the OS project, and this week I continue to develop my logo. I moved into Illustrator already, and the logo is designed. I just need to refine the colors and what I want those to be. I continue to work on my wireframe sketches, and I got some wireframes for the iPhone and the watch. I have also moved into XD and started to lay out my wireframes in there. I'm not really designing right now. Kind of just trying to get the plugins that I need and get like an overall layout of what I want it to look like. And I'm still trying to figure out the purpose of my OS. I haven't been able to figure that out, but hopefully as I work through it, it comes to me. And yeah, I'm gonna continue to work in XD and refine my logo, and I will see you guys next week. It is week 4 of the OS project, and this week I finalized my logo. I'm still trying to decide between 2 versions. I have an orange version and a blue version, but it's done. I've continued to design in XD for my desktop OS, and I've continued to develop my icons that are going to be a part of the OS. And I also started to design in XD for the iPad, so I'm kind of playing around in both interfaces and trying to see what works and what doesn't. And I've also decided that I want my operating system to be a simple, clean, and efficient OS. I want it to be for people who don't necessarily need to use their devices to their full capacity, and who go on to their devices, get the task that they need to get done, and then get out. So it's going to be a pretty simple design, pretty simple and clean. And yeah, I'm going to continue to work on it, and I'll see you guys next week. So it is week 5 of the OS project, and this week I decided that I wanted to go with the blue logo. And I went with the blue logo because it was more inviting and it was more calm, and I feel like that is the operating system that I designed, versus the orange one felt very like energized, and it felt like you were about to go to work, like heavy work on your device. It felt very like energizing, and that is not really what I designed for, so I felt like the blue one fit my design the best. I finished my desktop and iPad design for the most part. I'm still kind of tweaking some things here and there, listening to feedback that I'm getting, so those are still a work in progress. And same thing with my iPhone and the watch OS designs. everything that I want to be on them is on them in XD, but I'm still just messing around with the design and the layouts. My icons are done, and now I just need to prototype. And then after that, I'm going to be collecting all of my progress work, the videos, and the wireframe sketches for the final turn-in. So yeah. Okay. So can you click on the loading screen? All right, and now you can choose a profile and log in.
Okay.
All right, and then can you open the Notes app? Okay, and then can you open the Google or Chrome app? Right?
Yeah.
And then can you exit out both of them? Okay, can you go to the login screen? And then can you log in? All right, and then open the Notes app. And then can you go to the transition screen? All right, and then can you go back to the home screen? Cool. All right, you can tap the loading screen and then log in.
Screen. Yeah. Okay.
And then can you open the Notes app? And then go to passwords. And then open the transition screen. That's the back button. Click, go to Notes again.
Okay.
Or passwords, I'm
Passwords,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah. And then if you go down to the bottom bar, click on that. That'll take you to the transitioning between apps.
Okay.
And then you can scroll down. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then can you go back to the Notes app? And then close it. You just have to click the bottom bar again. Alright. Alright. So can you go to the login screen? And then can you log in? And then can you open the Notes app? And then go to passwords. And then can you open the transition screen? And just go down to the messages. Cool. Now can you go back to the Notes app and open the Notes app? Right. And then can you go back to the home screen?